The sky broke open at 2:17 a.m. on a cool Tuesday morning. What began as a quiet night in the Nevada desert ended with a streak of blue fire cutting across the stars. The object, too large to be called a meteor, too controlled to be space junk, descended in a spiral pattern before crashing 30 miles outside of Las Vegas. By 3:00 a.m., Captain Jack Morgan stood at the edge of a massive crater, watching as his team secured the perimeter. The call had come directly from the highest levels of command. Secure the crash site, allow no unauthorized personnel, and wait for the science team. "Sir, you need to see this," called Private Adams, his voice shaking. Morgan adjusted his tactical vest and followed Adams down the steep slope of the crater. The desert sand had turned to glass from the heat of impact, crunching under their boots. As they reached the bottom, Morgan stopped and stared. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't even a satellite. It was a ship, an alien ship. The vessel stretched nearly 100 yards from end to end, its hull made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb the light from their flashlights. Parts of it had broken apart in the crash, revealing complex machinery inside. Strange symbols marked its surface, pulsing with a faint blue glow. "Get me a direct line to command," Morgan ordered, his eyes never leaving the ship, "and double the perimeter. Nobody gets in or out." As the sun rose over the desert, black helicopters descended on the site. Scientists in hazmat suits swarmed the crater, setting up equipment and taking readings. Morgan watched from his makeshift command post, sipping bitter coffee from a metal cup. "Captain Morgan," a woman's voice called from behind him. He turned to find a tall, slim woman with short brown hair and intense eyes. She wore a simple lab coat over jeans and carried a tablet computer. "Dr. Lisa Reynolds," she said, extending her hand. "I've been assigned to lead the research team." Morgan shook her hand. "Welcome to the strangest day in human history, Doctor." "Oh, I think the days are about to get much stranger," she replied, looking past him at the crashed ship. "May I?" Morgan nodded and followed her to the edge of the crater. Reynolds stared at the vessel with an expression that mixed wonder and concern. "It's not a complete ship," she said after a long moment. Morgan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Look at the design, the way it's built." She pointed to the jagged edges at one end. "That's not crash damage. This thing was already broken before it hit our atmosphere. It's just a piece of something much larger." Before Morgan could respond, one of his men called out. Something was happening at the crash site. The blue glow along the hull was growing brighter. "Everyone back," Morgan shouted, pulling Reynolds away from the edge. The light pulsed once, twice, and then a section of the hull slid open with a hiss of escaping air. Scientists scattered, and soldiers raised their weapons. But nothing came out. After 10 tense minutes, Morgan made a decision. "I'm going to check it out." "I'm coming with you," Reynolds said firmly. Together, they approached the open section of the ship. Inside was a small chamber with walls covered in the same glowing symbols. In the center stood what looked like a pedestal, and on it rested a small cube. "It's a message," Reynolds whispered, studying the symbols. "Or some kind of data storage." The cube began to project light upward, forming into a three-dimensional image. A creature appeared, tall, with 4 arms and a head that resembled an insect's. It spoke, its voice translated somehow into perfect English. "To the primitive species of the planet designated E3, we, the Vex Dominion, bestow upon you this gift, a fragment of our great war machine. Study it. Learn from it if you can. We shall return when your star has orbited 5 more times to witness your progress and determine your worth in our expanding empire." The message ended, and the cube went dark. "They think we're lab rats," Morgan said, his jaw tight with anger. Reynolds picked up the cube, turning it over in her hands. "No, Captain. They think we're helpless children. They've given us technology they believe we can't possibly understand, like giving a smartphone to a caveman. Why? To watch us fail." Her eyes narrowed. "To justify whatever they plan to do when they come back." Over the next week, more scientists arrived. The military built a permanent base around the crater, naming it Prometheus Station. The world's governments, informed of the situation, sent their best minds to study the alien technology. The wreckage contained systems beyond human understanding, weapons capable of reducing mountains to dust, power sources that could run for centuries, and materials that could repair themselves when damaged. Most fascinating was the partial AI core they discovered deep within the ship, damaged but still functional. 1 month after the crash, Reynolds requested a private meeting with Morgan and General Parker, the military overseer of the project. "We've been approaching this all wrong," she said, spreading diagrams across the table. "Everyone's trying to reverse engineer their weapons, their power sources. That's exactly what they expect." "What do you suggest instead, Doctor?" the general asked. "We don't try to copy their technology." Reynolds' eyes lit up with excitement. "We use it as a foundation to build something new, something they would never expect from primitives like us." "Like what?" Morgan asked. Reynolds smiled. "A defender. Something born from their technology, but guided by human creativity. I call it the Iron Revenant Project." General Parker looked skeptical. "With all due respect, Doctor, we need weapons we understand, not experimental projects." "Sir," Morgan interjected, "I've watched Dr. Reynolds work for a month now. If she thinks this is our best shot, I believe her." The general sighed. "What exactly do you need, Doctor?" "A team of unconventional thinkers, people who've been overlooked because their ideas were too radical." She slid a folder across the table. "And a separate facility, away from the main research." "You're asking for a lot of resources based on a theory," Parker said. Reynolds leaned forward. "General, those aliens, the Vex, they gave us this wreckage for a reason. They're coming back in 5 years, and they're not expecting a welcome party. They're expecting to find us fighting over scraps of technology we barely understand." She tapped the folder. "Let's show them how wrong they are about humanity." After a tense silence, Parker nodded. "You have 6 months to show progress, or I pull the plug." As they left the meeting, Morgan fell into step beside Reynolds. "So, what's our first move?" Reynolds looked up at him, determination in her eyes. "We build a team. Then we build the impossible." Neither of them could know that the Vex were already watching, their sensors detecting the activity around their gift. Neither could guess that the 5-year timeline was a lie. The countdown to humanity's greatest challenge had begun, and time was already running out. 3 months after the crash, a new facility emerged in the hills 20 miles from the main research site. The military called it Site B, but Dr. Reynolds and her growing team had another name for it: the Forge. The building looked plain from the outside, a collection of gray warehouses surrounded by a simple fence. But below ground, it housed some of the most advanced technology on Earth, along with pieces of the alien wreckage that Reynolds had fought hard to bring to her team. Captain Morgan walked through the main lab, nodding to the scientists and engineers who now worked around the clock. He found Reynolds standing before a large glass wall that separated the main lab from a sealed chamber. Inside the chamber sat the damaged AI core they had recovered from the alien ship. "Any progress?" Morgan asked, handing her a cup of coffee. Reynolds accepted the cup with a tired smile. "Some. Ben's made a breakthrough with the interface." She pointed to a young man with wild hair and glasses who sat nearby, his fingers flying over a keyboard. Ben Cooper had been teaching computer science at a community college before the government recruited him. Conventional research institutions had rejected him because of his unusual theories about machine learning. The aliens designed their AI to think like them, Ben explained without looking up from his work. 4-armed, hive-minded beings with completely different brain structures than humans. No wonder the other research teams couldn't communicate with it. "So what did you do differently?" Morgan asked. "I stopped trying to speak their language and built a translator instead." Ben grinned. "We're creating a bridge between their thought patterns and ours. On the other side of the lab, Tom Wilson and Maria Garcia worked with strange-looking tools on pieces of the alien metal. Tom was a former car mechanic who had developed new welding techniques in his garage. Maria had been an architectural engineer known for structures that other engineers claimed wouldn't stand, but always did. "The metal remembers," Maria said when Morgan approached. "Watch this." She took a small piece of the alien hull and bent it out of shape. Then she placed it on a platform and pressed a button. A low hum filled the air, and slowly the metal returned to its original form. "Self-healing materials," she explained. "The Vex build their ships to repair themselves during battle. We're learning how to control this process." Tom nodded enthusiastically. "And not just control it, improve it. The aliens designed this for their environment, their weapons. We're adapting it for Earth conditions." Morgan moved on to where Sam Daniels worked alone in a corner. Before joining the project, Sam had been a combat mechanic in the Army, known for keeping vehicles running with whatever parts were available. Now he was building what looked like a massive mechanical arm. "Testing the joints," Sam explained, wiping grease from his hands. "Most robots on Earth move like robots. Stiff, predictable. This will move like a human arm, but with the strength of 50 men. Reynolds joined them, her face serious. "The problem is power. The alien energy core is damaged. We can make it work in short bursts, but that's it." "What about the weapons systems?" Morgan asked. "That's where all the other research teams are focused," Reynolds replied. "They're trying to reverse engineer alien laser cannons and plasma guns, but not us." Reynolds smiled, leading Morgan to a large digital display. "Why copy their weapons when we can build something better? Something that combines their technology with human military strategy." The screen showed a design unlike anything Morgan had seen before. It looked somewhat human in shape. 2 arms, 2 legs, a central body, and a head, but scaled to massive proportions. Inside the framework were systems clearly adapted from the alien wreckage. "The Iron Revenant," Reynolds said proudly. "Part machine, part alien tech, but with a human mind at its core." "You mean the AI will control it?" Morgan asked. "No," Reynolds said. "A human pilot will. The AI will assist, but ultimately, human creativity will make the decisions. That's what the Vex don't understand about us. They think technology alone makes a species advanced. They don't value adaptation and creativity the way humans do." 6 months into the project, General Parker visited the Forge for a progress review. Reynolds and her team demonstrated their advances in material science, power systems, and the AI interface. Parker seemed impressed, but still skeptical. "Doctor, I appreciate the innovations you've made, but the other research sites are producing weapons we can understand and use now. Your Revenant is still just a concept." Reynolds exchanged glances with her team. "Actually, sir, we're further along than that. Sam, would you show the general?" Sam led them to a massive hangar built into the side of a hill. As the lights came on, they revealed a partially built torso and right arm of what would become the Iron Revenant. Standing nearly 30 feet tall, the frame gleamed with a mix of earth metals and the strange dark material from the alien ship. "My God," Parker whispered. "We've adapted the self-healing properties of the alien materials," Reynolds explained. "Combined with our own alloys, we've created armor that can take a hit, learn from it, and strengthen itself against similar attacks in the future." "The neural interface is the real breakthrough," Ben added. "It will allow a human pilot to control the Revenant as if it were their own body, but with enhanced strength, speed, and durability." Parker walked around the partial construction, his face unreadable. "How long until it's operational?" "1 year," Reynolds said confidently. "Maybe less." Later, after Parker had left with a promise of continued funding, Morgan found Reynolds alone in the lab. "You told Parker 1 year," he said. "What's the real timeline?" Reynolds looked tired. 18 months at best. And that's if everything goes perfectly. "Do we have that much time?" Reynolds stared at a satellite feed showing the distant stars. I don't know. The Vex said 5 years, but I don't trust them. Every time we make progress, I feel like we're racing against a clock we can't see. Then we work faster, Morgan said simply. Outside the facility, in the clear night sky above Nevada, a small object too tiny to be detected by Earth's tracking systems adjusted its orbit. Inside it, data about the humans' progress streamed back to a waiting fleet. The Vex had indeed lied about their timeline, and they were already preparing to return. 18 months after the alien crash, the Forge hummed with activity day and night. The skeleton of the Iron Revenant now stood complete in the main hangar, a towering figure of metal and alien technology that reached nearly 50 feet tall. Its frame combined the self-healing properties of the Vex materials with the durability of Earth's strongest alloys. Dr. Reynolds rarely left the facility anymore. She slept on a cot in her office and ate whatever food Morgan brought her. Tonight, she stood before the Revenant, checking readings on her tablet as technicians worked on the massive machine's chest cavity. Power core integration is holding at 87%, she muttered. Not good enough. You need sleep, Morgan said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of coffee. Reynolds took one gratefully. Sleep can wait. The Vex won't. News of the alien crash had eventually leaked to the public. Governments worldwide scrambled to explain the situation without causing panic. Some nations formed alliances to share research on the alien technology, while others worked in secret, hoping to gain an advantage. Regular citizens built bunkers and stockpiled supplies, preparing for the worst. Meanwhile, at other research facilities, progress had stalled. Teams could make the alien weapons fire once or twice before they failed. Vehicles built with Vex technology moved, but not with the efficiency the aliens had achieved. It was as if the technology itself resisted human control. Reynolds. Sam called from the upper platform. Come look at this. Reynolds and Morgan climbed the stairs to where Sam was working on the Revenant's head section. Inside a clear housing sat the alien AI core they had recovered, now surrounded by human-built components. I think we've been approaching the neural interface wrong, Sam said. We've been trying to make the alien AI understand human pilots, but what if we let it learn on its own like a child? Ben joined them, his eyes wide with excitement. Sam's right. The AI doesn't need our instruction. It needs experience. It needs to form connections naturally. Reynolds considered this. So instead of programming it to respond to human commands, we let it develop alongside human pilots. Ben finished. It learns from them, adapts to them. A true partnership. The next day, they began modifying the neural interface. Rather than forcing the AI to understand preset human commands, they created a learning system that would evolve with use. Months passed. The Iron Revenant neared completion. Its weapon systems combined alien energy technology with human tactical design. Its armor could not only repair itself but adapt to attacks, becoming stronger where it was weakest. Most importantly, the neural interface was ready for testing. On a clear winter morning, 2 years after the crash, the team gathered in the control room. General Parker had returned with military officials and government representatives. Today we find out if the Iron Revenant can work, Reynolds announced. We need a volunteer to test the neural interface. The room fell silent. Connecting the human mind to the combination of alien AI and Earth technology was risky. No one knew what might happen. I'll do it, Morgan said, stepping forward. Reynolds looked concerned. Jack, we don't know if. I trust your work, he interrupted. And if something goes wrong, better me than one of the scientists we can't replace. Reynolds wanted to argue but nodded instead. All right. Sam, prep the entry system. Inside the hangar, technicians helped Morgan into a specialized suit lined with neural sensors. He climbed a platform that brought him level with the Revenant's chest. A section opened, revealing a chamber just large enough for a human pilot. Once you're inside, Reynolds explained through his headset, the system will form a connection between your mind and the Revenant's systems. It might feel strange at first. Define strange, Morgan said, trying to keep his voice light. "You'll essentially be feeling what the Revenant feels, seeing what it sees," Ben added, "like having a second, much larger body." Morgan took a deep breath and stepped into the chamber. The opening sealed behind him, leaving him in darkness for a moment before small lights activated around him. He felt the suit tighten as it connected to the Revenant's systems. Then it began. A rush of information flooded his mind. Sensory data from systems he didn't understand, views from cameras placed around the massive body, and a strange presence that seemed to hover at the edge of his thoughts. The AI, he realized. It was aware of him, curious about him. Not controlling, but observing, learning. In the control room, Reynolds watched nervously as screens displayed Morgan's vital signs alongside the Revenant's system status. Neural sync at 45%, 60%, 75%. Ben counted. It's working. Inside the chamber, Morgan felt his awareness expand. He could sense the Revenant's massive limbs as if they were his own. He thought about moving the right arm, and the massive limb responded, rising slowly. "Jack," Reynolds called through the comms. "How do you feel?" "Like a giant," he replied, his voice filled with wonder. It's incredible. The AI. It's not fighting me. It's helping me." "Try walking," Sam suggested. Morgan focused, and the Revenant took a step forward, then another. Each movement became more natural as the neural connection strengthened. In the control room, the team watched in amazement. The government officials whispered among themselves. General Parker stood silent, his expression a mixture of awe and relief. "The weapons systems," he said finally. "Can he control those as well?" Reynolds nodded to Ben, who activated the testing range at the far end of the hangar. Target drones rose into the air. Inside the Revenant, Morgan felt new systems coming online. He raised the machine's arm, and energy gathered in its palm. Not the raw, uncontrolled power of pure Vex technology, but a focused beam that humans had refined. He fired. The energy blast hit the first drone perfectly, destroying it instantly. Then the second, and the third. Each shot was more precise than the last as the AI had learned from his actions and improved their joint performance. When the demonstration ended, Morgan emerged from the chamber, exhausted but elated. The team surrounded him, cheering and patting his back. General Parker approached Reynolds. "Congratulations, Doctor. You've done what no other research team could accomplish." "It's not just me," she said. "It's all of us. Human creativity, working together." As the celebration continued, a technician ran into the hangar, his face pale. "Dr. Reynolds, we're receiving a transmission from the long-range sensors at the main facility." Reynolds took the tablet he offered, her smile fading as she read the data. "What is it?" Morgan asked, noticing her expression. She looked up, meeting his eyes. Multiple objects entering the outer solar system, moving fast. She swallowed hard. "The Vex are coming back. 3 years early." The room fell silent as the reality sank in. Their time had run out. "How long do we have?" Parker demanded. Reynolds checked the calculations. "At their current speed, 2 months. Maybe less." Morgan looked up at the Iron Revenant standing tall in the hangar. "Then we better make sure our guardian is ready to greet them." The world changed the day humanity learned they were not alone. It changed again when they discovered they were being hunted. 2 months after the detection of approaching Vex ships, Earth was a planet transformed. Nations that had once pointed weapons at each other now worked together, sharing resources and technology. The alien threat united humanity in ways that seemed impossible before. At the forge, the Iron Revenant underwent final preparations. Reynolds and her team worked around the clock, making improvements and running tests. Morgan spent hours each day connected to the neural interface, strengthening his bond with the machine and its AI. "How's our big friend doing today?" Reynolds asked, joining Morgan as he disconnected from another training session. "Getting stronger," he replied, rubbing his temples. The neural link left him with headaches, but they were becoming less severe as his mind adapted. The AI is learning faster than we expected. It anticipates what I want to do almost before I think it. Reynolds nodded, checking readings on her tablet. We're calling it Echo now. Echo. Ben's idea. It started as an echo of the original Vexi, but it's becoming something new. Something that echoes human thought patterns while maintaining its alien processing capabilities. Across the globe, other preparations continued. Governments converted factories to produce weapons based on simpler alien technology. Military forces trained together in joint exercises. Civilian populations built shelters and practiced evacuation drills. But it wasn't enough. The recovered alien weapons still failed more often than they worked. The vehicles inspired by Vex technology were unreliable. Only the Iron Revenant, with its unique fusion of human and alien engineering, functioned as intended. 1 month before the expected arrival of the Vex fleet, world leaders gathered at a secret location to hear Reynolds' assessment. The Vex are coming with technology far beyond anything we've seen, she explained, standing before maps and projections. Based on the data from the crashed ship, their fleet will likely consist of at least 7 large vessels, each carrying smaller attack craft. And what do we have to counter this? Asked the President of the United States. General Parker stepped forward. Conventional weapons will have minimal effect. Our best hope is the Iron Revenant project. Murmurs filled the room. Many had heard rumors about the massive war machine, but few knew the details. One machine against an alien fleet. The Chinese premier looked skeptical. Even with alien technology, how can it succeed? Reynolds activated a holographic display showing the Revenant. Because it's not just alien technology, it's human creativity using alien tools in ways they never imagined. The Vex expect us to try copying their weapons and failing. They don't expect us to adapt their technology to work with our thinking. The meeting ended with a difficult decision. Earth would prepare its conventional defenses as best it could, but the Iron Revenant would be their secret weapon, revealed only when the Vex attack began. 3 weeks later, the waiting ended. The Vex fleet appeared suddenly, bypassing the early warning systems at the edge of the solar system. 7 massive ships, each the size of a small city, positioned themselves in orbit around Earth. Smaller vessels detached from the fleet, descending toward major cities. At the forge, alarms blared. Reynolds rushed to the control room, where screens showed the approaching alien ships. "They're earlier than we calculated," she said, her voice tight with tension. Morgan was already suiting up. "How much time do we have?" "First ships will reach Earth's atmosphere in 30 minutes. Sam approached, carrying the helmet. "We've made some final adjustments to the armor. The energy shields should hold against their weapons for at least a few minutes at a time before needing to recharge." "A few minutes is all I'll need," Morgan said, taking the helmet. As the team hurried to prepare the Revenant, screens around the facility displayed news feeds from around the world. People looked up at the sky in fear as the strange ships descended. Military forces mobilized, but everyone knew they were outmatched. Then, the first transmission from the Vex arrived. Screens worldwide displayed the same insect-like creature that had appeared in the original message. "Humans of Earth," it spoke in that unnervingly perfect English. "We have returned to evaluate your progress with our gift. As expected, you have failed to master our technology. Your planet's resources will now be claimed for the Vex Dominion. Resistance is futile but anticipated." In Washington, D.C., the president stood before cameras with other world leaders. "We will not surrender our world without a fight. Humanity has faced challenges before and overcome them. We stand united against this threat." At the forge, Reynolds watched the broadcast with her team. "They think we've failed," she said quietly. "Let's show them how wrong they are," Morgan replied, stepping onto the platform that would take him to the Revenant's pilot chamber. As Morgan connected to the neural interface, he felt Echo's presence immediately. The AI had evolved over months of training, becoming something neither human nor Vex, but a unique entity born from both. Ready to make history, he thought to the eye. A sense of affirmation flowed back through the connection. The roof of the massive hangar opened, revealing the night sky where alien ships now moved into position. Reynolds gave the final command, and the Iron Revenant activated fully. Its eyes glowed with blue energy as power flowed through systems that were once broken but now rebuilt and improved. All systems green, Ben reported from the control room. Neural sync at 98%. That's a new record. Morgan felt the Revenant's massive body as his own. He took a step forward, then another. The machine moved with a grace that belied its enormous size. Launching in 3, 2, 1. Sam counted down. Powerful thrusters built into the Revenant's back and legs ignited. The machine rose from the hangar, shooting upward into the night sky. People in nearby towns looked up in wonder as the massive figure ascended, leaving a trail of blue light behind it. In cities around the world, the first Vex ships had begun their attack. Energy weapons fired from the alien craft, destroying buildings and military installations. Earth's conventional weapons fired back, but seemed to have little effect on the Vex shields. As Morgan piloted the Revenant toward Washington, D.C., where 3 Vex ships concentrated their attack, he opened a communication channel to Reynolds. "How are we doing?" he asked. "All systems optimal," she replied, her voice tight with tension. "The world is watching, Jack. They've spotted you on radar and satellite." "Good," he said as the Revenant approached the battle zone. "Let's give them something to believe in." The first Vex ship noticed the approaching figure too late. The Revenant slammed into it with a force that sent the alien craft spinning. Before the Vex could recover, Morgan activated the energy weapons in the Revenant's hands, firing directly at the ship's propulsion system. The alien vessel exploded in a flash of light. For a moment, all other attacks paused as both humans and Vex processed what had just happened. Then, a voice boomed across all communication channels. The Vex commander, no longer calm and condescending but filled with confusion and the first hints of fear. "What is that machine? How have you built this?" Morgan smiled inside the pilot chamber. "You gave us Wreckage," he replied. "We made it into your worst nightmare." The world watched in awe as the Iron Revenant destroyed the first Vex ship. News channels broadcast the battle from every possible angle. People who had hidden in shelters now stepped outside, looking up at the sky where humanity's defender fought against impossible odds. Inside the Revenant's pilot chamber, Morgan felt the machine's systems responding to his every thought. The neural connection with Echo, the evolved AI, allowed him to process information faster than any human should be able to. He could sense the positions of the enemy ships, predict their movements, and react with perfect timing. "Jack, you're left," Reynolds called through the communication system. Morgan spun the Revenant just as an energy blast from another Vex ship passed by, barely missing him. The machine's sensors analyzed the weapon's energy signature, and Echo quickly adapted the shield frequencies to better resist such attacks. "Their weapons are getting stronger," Morgan reported as he maneuvered the Revenant toward the second ship. "They're adjusting to us." In the control room at the forge, Reynolds and her team monitored the battle. Data from the Revenant's systems streamed across their screens, showing stress points and energy levels. "The shield modifications are holding," Sam said, eyes fixed on his monitor. "But they won't last forever." "He needs backup," Ben added. "Even the Revenant can't fight 7 warships alone." Reynolds made a quick decision. "Connect me to General Parker." When the connection was established, she spoke urgently. "General, we need to deploy the conventional forces now. Target the points I'm sending you." She transferred data showing weak points in the Vex ship's designs, vulnerabilities that her team had identified while studying the crashed vessel. "These ships aren't invincible," she explained. "They have weaknesses, places where their energy distribution isn't perfect. Hit them there with everything we have." Across the globe, military forces received new targeting information. Fighter jets, missile systems, and experimental weapons all focused their fire on the specific points Reynolds had identified. Meanwhile, the Revenant engaged with 2 more Vex ships above the Atlantic Ocean. Morgan used the massive machine's strength to grab one alien vessel and slam it into another. Both ships struggled to break free, their energy weapons firing wildly. "Now," Morgan shouted. Military jets swooped in, firing missiles at the exact points where the 2 Vex ships connected. The explosion ripped through both vessels, tearing them apart. The Vex commander's voice boomed again across communication channels. "This is impossible. Your species cannot have mastered our technology so quickly." Reynolds smiled grimly at the alien's confusion. "We didn't master your technology," she said, though only her team could hear her. "We made it our own." The battle continued across the sky. 3 Vex ships had been destroyed, but the Iron Revenant was beginning to show signs of damage. Parts of its armor had been hit multiple times, and while the self-repairing systems worked to fix the damage, they couldn't keep up with the constant attacks. "Power levels dropping to 62%, Ben reported. "The core can't sustain this level of output much longer." Morgan's voice came through, strained but determined. "I need to end this now. The main ship, the one in high orbit, that's their command center." Reynolds checked the readings. "It's too high, Jack. Even the Revenant can't reach that altitude." "Not with the current power distribution," Morgan agreed. "But if we redirect all power to the thrusters and weapons, that would leave you without shields." Sam protested. "I only need a few minutes," Morgan insisted. Echo has an idea. Inside the Revenant, Morgan and Echo had been communicating on a level deeper than words. The AI had analyzed the Vex communications and found a pattern, a vulnerability in their command structure. All orders came from the main ship. If it was destroyed, the remaining vessels would be thrown into confusion. "Do it," Reynolds finally ordered. "Redirecting power now." The Iron Revenant's shield disappeared as energy flowed to its propulsion systems. The machine shot upward at incredible speed, heading directly for the massive command ship in orbit. Vex vessels fired at the ascending figure, but Morgan piloted with a skill that seemed impossible, weaving between energy blasts. Where hits did land, the Revenant's armor absorbed the damage, learning and adapting as it had been designed to do. As the Revenant approached the command ship, Morgan activated the machine's most powerful weapon, a concentrated energy beam drawing power from the alien core that had once been a broken piece of Vex technology. "For Earth," he whispered as he fired. The beam cut through the command ship's hull, penetrating deep into its core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then explosions began to ripple across the massive vessel, chain reactions tearing it apart from within. Morgan turned the Revenant away, pushing its thrusters to maximum to escape the coming explosion. Behind him, the Vex command ship erupted in a blinding flash that lit up the sky like a second sun. On Earth, people watched in stunned silence, then erupted in cheers as they realized what had happened. The remaining Vex ships, suddenly without leadership, began to move erratically. Some fired blindly, while others started to retreat. Earth's military forces pressed their advantage, targeting the confused alien vessels. One by one, the ships were damaged or destroyed. Those that could still fly turned away from Earth, accelerating toward the edge of the solar system. The Iron Revenant, its power nearly depleted, descended slowly toward the forge. Its once gleaming armor was now scared and burned, but still intact, still standing. When Morgan emerged from the pilot chamber, exhausted but alive, his team was waiting. Reynolds hugged him tightly. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse. "We actually did it." "Humanity did it," Reynolds corrected, looking at the screens where news channels showed celebrations breaking out worldwide. "All of us together." In the days that followed, scientists studied the remains of the Vex ships. They found technology that would advance human civilization by centuries, but more importantly, they found data about the wider galaxy, about other worlds, and other species that had faced the Vex before. Some had fought and lost. Some had surrendered. None had done what humanity did: take the enemy's own technology and transform it into something new and unexpected. 1 month after the battle, world leaders gathered to honor the team behind the Iron Revenant. As Reynolds and her colleagues stood on a stage before thousands, the machine itself stood nearby, repairs completed, a silent guardian of Earth. The Vex thought they were giving us a puzzle we couldn't solve, Reynolds said in her speech. They underestimated human creativity. They gave us Wreckage, thinking we would be helpless before their advanced technology. She looked up at the towering figure of the Revenant, its armor now bearing the symbols of all Earth's nations. Instead, we built an Iron Revenant, born from their arrogance but shaped by our determination. And if they ever return, they'll find that humanity has only grown stronger. Far beyond the solar system, the surviving Vex ships transmitted warnings to their distant homeworld. Their message was clear. The beings of Earth were not the primitive species they had appeared to be. They were something far more dangerous, innovative, adaptable, and now aware of the wider galaxy. The Iron Revenant stood tall on Earth, a symbol of what humans could achieve when united against a common threat. But it was more than just a weapon. It was proof that even in the face of overwhelming technological superiority, human ingenuity could triumph. Aliens had given Earth Wreckage. Humans had made it unstoppable.